Hang with us. One follower, one viewer. Kenny's running a little bit late. I'm going to share it around a little bit. We'll get going here. Yeah, let's get shared around. Hang with us, guys. I'm going to get this shared around a little bit because I should get my mic over here. You guys hear me okay? Okay. Thanks, Brian. Hey, Michael. Hang with us, guys. I'm going to get this shared around. Kenny's running a little bit behind, quite a bit behind, but we're going to fill some stuff while we wait for him to join and jump into the topic of the evening. So just hang with us, man. Hey, Calvin. All right, guys. So got it shared around a bit. Yeah, Kenny's running a little bit late. So I tried to see if Kayla could jump on so we could do a recap of the Florida event. We'll see if she's able to do that. But you may be stuck with me for a while. And I'm going to do my best little soft shoe number here to talk us through stuff. So, and fill the time with meaningful things. We'll just give it a little bit, just hang in there. Just let a few more people jump on because we got a new intro we're going to debut tonight. We want as many people to see it as possible. You'll see why here in a little bit. Here shortly, I'll talk through it. It's one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight anyway, and you'll see it. But it's kind of fun. Kind of fun. Billy, hi. Thanks for jumping on, bud. All right, Kayla's. We'll see if Kayla can jump on here. Um, How you doing? Going well, man. Weather's getting nicer here in the north, and the days are getting longer. And at least if it's daylight longer, so may not have as many people follow or follow live anyway. But so look, Kayla's going to try to jump on. Um, Maybe she'll get on before Kenny. If she does, great. If she doesn't, that's okay too. But look, guys, so here's the deal. The ABTA has been busy behind the scenes. We talked about that. We talked about that last week, some of the goings on. And the goings is still going on. There are 3 active committees working behind the scenes just to make things better, improve things. That the ABTA management is starting to grow. It's starting to get some traction. There's a lot of interest. I get a lot of people coming to me asking about it and talking about it. When's your next live stream? What topics? When are you bringing an event to Michigan? So I think that. And there's Kayla. How about that ambush, Kayla?
Hey, yeah, good evening.
I got to tell you, I thought about that. But you said, I don't know if I have your phone number actually. So that's why I threw that out there.
That's okay. It's definitely faster response if you text me. I don't always look at my messenger, but that's fine.
No, I get it. We will right that wrong on my part. Soon, I'll get your number and get it stored in my phone if I don't have it already. But anyway, Kayla, I was just telling Kenny is running about 30 minutes behind. So we asked if maybe you could jump on and we could recap do a little Florida event recap, which is part of what we wanted to do anyway.
Sure.
But what a perfect segue. But what I was just kind of telling the folks, Kayla, is we have a lot of activity going on behind the scenes. I think we have 3 active committees, if not 4. I know there's 3. You chair one of them in the events committee, and then there's a testing committee, and then there's a member benefits committee, and all of it is running some really good stuff. I participate in 2 of them, and it's just some really, really neat stuff going on, and it's all going to manifest in just betterment of the organization in time, and some of it's going to be really near term. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I mentioned, Kayla, before you come on, we have a new intro we're going to debut tonight.
Oh,
and it is all around. It's the work of the members benefits committee. So if you are an official member of the ABTA, you go online, you go to ABT, AmericanBloodTrackers.org, become a member or join, whatever it is. I think it says join.
mm-hmm.
You sign up for whatever term you want. You are now an active member. Of course, there's a fee associated with it. It's $25 a year, which is very reasonable and very in line with other organizations similar to this. But you become a member. That by being a member, you now are starting. We're getting to where we can start to offer benefits to those members, in forms of partnering with certain organizations that are offering discount codes if you patron their organization. And I'm going to shout it out. But Lyle Avis has just taking this bull by the horns,
Mm-hmm.
and is taking no prisoners on his quest to establish partners with the ABTA. So we have this growing list. It will be published in time before too awful long. We will publish it. There's some logistical things that we're working through, so it can be posted on the website. But these organizations, I mean, for example, Dan's Gear is one of them. You can get a discount at Dan's Gear. There's, I'm drawing a blank, but you'll see it here in a minute. But Lyle Avis has done a fantastic job with this. So Lyle, good work, man. And I wish I could contribute more, but the work you're doing does not go unnoticed, and it's just fantastic. So he's the de facto chairman of that group, and the rest of us are just his cheerleaders, because he's doing a great job.
Yep.
So, what we're going to do. So if people are going to partner and be generous enough to partner with us and offer our members discounts on stuff, we want to be able to shout them out and recognize them whenever we can. It's not, and again, it's not that they're sponsoring the ABTA proper. They are just offering member discounts. So what Lyle did is he put together this banner and this is growing rapidly. So the banner we're going to display tonight in our intro role is as it was yesterday. There's two more that joined today. So this will be a living document for a while till it stabilizes, and I'll update the intro video appropriately as Lyle sends us the updated, periodically he sends the updated banner. So right now, Kayla, I'm going to debut our intro. So everybody pay attention to this.
Okay.
And because this is going to be the standard after we get the stream shared around like we do, and now we're going to play our intro video. So here, check us out. Are you guys ready for this? Here we go.
Ready.
All right, hold on a minute. I gotta go back here now. Here we go. This is good stuff, Kayla. Here we go. And there it is, man. When you hear the music play, it is game on, friends, fans, and followers.
I like it.
Yeah. So that'll be it, man. When you hear that, you start paying attention because the good stuff is coming. But in all seriousness, be sure you look at that because those people don't have to do what they're doing, and they're offering members discounts on their stuff. So appreciate that. But so the premise of tonight, Kayla, is we're starting our training series.
Yep.
When Kenny gets on, and I'm sure he's driving faster than he should be right now, and probably got some anxiety. So we'll get him calmed down, and then we'll let him roll into his training series, and then you can fall off if you want to. But meanwhile, what I thought we could do is talk about a little bit about the Florida event, give a Florida event recap, and then I'll walk through just all of the tracking events, the big tracking events that are forthcoming. And in fact, I forgot one. Whether there's three that are not ABTA events, but they're tracking related events, and there's lessons. There's good stuff to be learned there. So I'm going to shout those out too. And then we have one in development that finally kind of landed today. So, but we'll talk about that one later. So, tell us about the Florida event, Kayla. How did it go? What's the story according to Kayla?
Well, I was just trying to pull up our stats. We have a sheet that had all of our stats in it.
Oh yeah, the stat sheet. I love stat sheets for stuff like this.
So I have to sign into my Google account to do it. I thought I was signed in. Give me 1 second and I can log in there.
Yeah, no problem. Michael Beck. Yeah. Michael, we went from winter straight to summer, kind of here. But the snow is gone here in southern Michigan. I was just talking to Calvin, who was listening. My buddy Calvin up in the northwest corner of the state, and he still has snow in the woods. And Calvin, you can have all that snow. I don't want it. Was finally able to get out and lay the first practice line of the off season, and it went very, very well. Laid one for a friend of mine who's practicing for his UBT2, so I was able to lay him a UBT proper line and Lucy. So Alan, if you're watching, good job. We'll do some more of that. But yeah, man, those northerners are ready to break out.
Okay, I think I got it. Maybe I don't. I don't have the updated one. I don't think, or actually, maybe I do. Sorry.
It's all right. We ambushed you, so.
I know. I'm trying to find. So the statistics, I just was going to go over exactly how many tests were ran at the Florida event. So I don't have that data anymore. We submitted that to basically our secretary, who will be mailing out the certificates to everybody who did pass. So I don't have that anymore, but I want to say we ran 23 tests. 5 were finished. I don't recall the amount of started and seasoned, but I do know that 5 of them were finished tests.
Yep.
And it was a great event. I mean, for the time frame that we had to kind of put everything together, I would say that it definitely went really well. We had a very good attendance, roughly 30 to 35 people that attended the seminar. And that included a lot of the people that were there for the tests came to the seminar on Saturday. Let's see. Travis Bozeman talked. I feel like it was the most engagement that we had. Hands-on training. I know Kenny talked about this before. So everybody that we talked to really enjoyed everything that we did, because it was a lot more hands-on than we have done in the past, which is great. And people had their dogs doing the hands-on things that we had prepared at the actual event. So Travis Bozeman laid a few different lines out, and it was just to be able to read your dog, to see a young pup that was 6-7 months old to a 2-year-old dog to then a 5-year-old dog, and watch the difference of progression of age and behavior of when that dog noticed the scent, immediately turned and went on the line. And it was just to practice watching your dog and getting used to it. That was great.
That is awesome. Yeah, I like that.
That was really good. He laid a few different lines, so you could go with your dog, walk your dog, watch the behavior, see, what a seasoned dog looked like compared to a younger dog. And you could definitely, we videoed it. You could see the difference night and day. But the young dogs, it was great for them too, because they've got to do this. You've got to be able to put the work in with them to be able to read your dog, right? So it was just really good for young trackers or people who maybe aren't as experienced to know what to look for and how their dog should progress. Lyle had a great hands-on wound bed analysis, 5 different wound beds that he put together. And we had a real deer hide, which we brought. So we had various hair, different types of hair from the various parts of the deer body. So it was very realistic. We split up into groups so we could all talk about what we witnessed at that wound bed, what was the weapon used, the smell. We even had somebody taste one of the articles left at the wound bed. That was kind of funny.
Articles, you call it, huh?
The different colored hair. So we could all have a discussion of what we thought was at the hit site, how the deer might have been hit, how it reacted, wait times or not, it was really good to discuss it as a group and, just talk about what proper tracking, maybe wait times or expectations were and where we might think it'd be hit, if it would be a live deer or a dead deer in 5 hours or dead, like from that shot. So it was really good to see the different wound beds. So that was great. We also had Randy Duvall and one of his trainers, Anna from Duvall Catahoulas, talk about the imprinting of the young dog of a puppy as soon as it leaves. The mother at 6 weeks, from 6 to 8 weeks, or actually it's 8 weeks. Is it 8 weeks when they leave? I think it's 6 weeks.
Pretty much 8.
8 weeks. So, sorry, the first 2 weeks of when it leaves the mother from 8 weeks to 10 weeks, that imprinting, she talked about the importance of that. What does that even mean? What does that look like? And how she helps do that with the young dog. And then you get the dog back at 2 weeks. She doesn't keep it for a long time, so you guys can bond and work on obedience training. But that was really good. That was the first time we've had that at a seminar. So I thought that was very helpful for people that are adding more to their box, knowing, to do that imprinting. Randy Duvall also talked to us about obedience training and showed us some ways to help, teach your dog to trust you, that you're the alpha, to have you. He was walking us with the dogs around and having him between the dog and whatever the object was. So the dog relies on him and the trust that they develop and establish. That was really neat having that done. You could see the difference between as well, young dogs versus mature dogs during that interaction. That was really good. And Kenny, of course, talked about training, about the dog's nose and the science behind everything, which he had some great hands-on things to show. So he had some examples of ways to show about the scent cone. You guys have to come to an event to be able to see it all, but it really just helped put into perspective what we as trackers communicate to hunters when we're trying to help them recover their deer. It just puts things into perspective on what we're talking about. You could see exactly, what we say about the scent area and the contamination and wind drift, is everything. So it was really, really good.
Yeah, that there you go. Yeah, that sounds really good. Lyle, I'm interested in that wound bed tutorial, buddy. I'd love to see all of it. But I've often thought about wound beds, and when I look at them, if I can, I don't stop my dog if we're on lead. If I'm off lead, I'll stop and look, while she's going. But there's stuff to be gleaned from it. And I know there's a lot of stuff I can still learn from it. So I'm really, really interested in that. Almost home, Kenny says.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I learn something every time I go. And again, they're trying to change it up to keep it engaging. They're listening to everyone that's participated and what they liked and what they got out of it the most. And we're going to continue to provide that information at the seminars. I don't want to tell you everything because you got to come so you can see.
You got to come. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We had giveaways as well. So when you come, and again, that's another thing that Lyle's working on is member benefits, giveaways at the seminars as well. So there's something in it for you to attend. I think I would say almost everybody walked away with almost everybody should have walked away with something, but you know how like raffles go? You have, a group of people and there's this one person at this one table or this one person at this one table over here that always gets everything. That's exactly what happened. Two different people. It was like a competition between who was going to end up, which side of the room ended up with the most things, but it was two people that got a lot, but we tried to spread it out. Let's see. Oh, we had a concert at the end.
Yeah, that's right. Kenzie Wheeler.
Yes, that really was nice, especially with all the work that the judges putting in for 2 days, laying lines and testing, and then all the attendees, plus the people that live there at Deseret Ranch. There's not like you have anything like that comes to town very often, so they got to come and enjoy, and everyone was together, and we had a food truck there. That was really nice.
Yeah, that's cool. I know Kenny did say more than once
Mhm.
that it was one of the most participant engaging um, seminars he's ever been to. I think he called it 100% participant engagement. And I
Yep.
said, that's great as long as the participant engagement isn't them throwing tomatoes at him. And it
Yeah,
wasn't.
they
It
weren't.
was
There were new faces, people we'd never
yeah,
met that had been tuning in and that wanted to come see what it was about.
yeah,
Some new people that have just became members that have joined, so they saw a value in it, and we are looking forward to continuing to grow the community and
yeah.
educate and just everybody get better. That's what it's about.
Well, I will tell you, and I have been an absolute pest to you the last several weeks, and I know that, and I really, really apologize for that. You taking it like a trooper, thank you, and I will. I promise. I'll let you punch me in the shoulder um,
That's okay.
for being that pest. But I'm with you. I really think that the interest is growing. A lot of favorable exposure going on, and all for the right reasons, and it's exciting. It's exciting stuff, and it's great content with great people, and that's a recipe for success, really. And give the people what they want in a way that is pleasant for them to receive it, and good things can happen. So.
That's right.
So we got good things happening. Unless anything else, Kayla, worth noting about that?
No, that's our Florida recap. Looking forward to the next event. I think the next one is Iowa, and then Alabama.
So I got it right here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna walk through all of the big events, and I missed one, but I'm gonna pencil it in because I know when it is. So the next one, it's not an ABTA event, but it is a big trekking event. Is the
Mhm.
Missouri Symposium, the March 28th to the 30th. So I think that registration is closed for that one. I will be at the Missouri Symposium, and I'm thrilled about it. Um, but again, not ABTA, but it is a big tracking event. And then on the heels of that, we have the Iowa Blood Trackers event. That is an ABTA event, April 11th through the 13th. So
Mhm.
put that on your calendars. Iowa Blood Trackers event, April 11th to the 13th. Then we get into the ninth annual Alabama Blood Trailing Seminar, May 2nd through the 4th, ABTA event. Then we have the Pennsylvania Blood Trackers event. Michael Beck is the state liaison there in the driving force for that one. That is May 30 to June 1, Pennsylvania, an ABTA event. Non-ABTA event for May 30 and June 1, same weekend is the Illinois Deer Trackers Haven. I will be at that one too. I registered for those a long time ago. And then let me back up. On the heels of the Missouri Symposium, the following weekend is the Tracklahoma, a non-ABTA event, but again, a big tracking event. So the weekend after March 28th, I don't have those dates, but it's the following weekend. So then we go all the way down, the Pennsylvania and the Illinois event are May 30th. So recapping the ABTA events is the Iowa event April 30th, the Alabama event May 2nd through the 4th, the Pennsylvania event May 30th to June 1, and we have another one that we will talk more about later when we're ready. And there's Kenny. All right,
Hey.
buddy.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Good. Don't know how long you were there, buddy. I had to switch tabs to read the schedule, man. So sorry about that.
That's great. I haven't been here long, running behind today.
Yeah, well, that's why I said you were probably driving faster than you should, and then we're gonna have to take a few minutes to get you calmed down because I'm sure your anxiety is high. Good, Kayla handled it, man. Handled it like a trooper. To no surprise to you.
Yeah, I'm going to sign off and let you guys take over and watch you live. So
Thanks, Kayla.
Take care. See you guys.
So Kenny, we just recapped the Florida event. I walked through all of the major events forthcoming from here, and we played the intro. We talked about the 3 active committees that are driving betterment for the ABTA. I spent some time talking about just the yeoman's work that Lyle is doing on the member sponsorship committee, explaining what that banner is and how that's going to be a living banner for a while until we get it stabilized. And our intro video will play every time now, but will be updated periodically as we bring more partners on that are supporting our members. So hopefully our members can support them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, lots of things in the works for sure.
Yep. So anything you want to touch on about the Florida event, Kenny? I know we touched on it a little bit last week when we had Brian Johnson. You kind of gave some highlights. Kayla did a good job of walking through, some other highlights, and just what a great event it really was. Got me all fired up, and Lyle saying, "Oh, I might make a Michigan event someday." Well, Lyle told me all about his wound bed segment, which has me all kinds of intrigued, along with every other.
Well, since he won't be there in Michigan, I'll just have to do it and top it.
Oh, well, of course. I'll video it for you, Lyle. I'll video it for you. And we haven't talked about the Michigan event, but it is coming. We it's still in infant stages, but I think we've made a very significant step. And I don't know if we're ready to. We didn't not really talk about it because I didn't think we were really ready to yet. But it's we're danger close, I think.
Alan says, "Get Lyle to give a wait time segment." They'll learn one day.
That's funny. Well, cool. So, hey, the theme of the hour is training, Kenny. And
what's that?
What is that?
Yeah, what's training?
Training is soup to nuts, man. It's I suppose it could be subjective, but I'm really interested in it. I know there are a lot of people that are. We're in the training season, particularly here in the north. I hate to keep segregating north and south, but it's just the truth of the matter. Up here, we've all been hibernating, and we're ready. Our snow is melting, and we're ready to get out. I was able to get some tracks out, and I'm training. Trying to train myself for ABTA style judging stuff and track laying, and just always trying to find a way to improve, and there's a million ways to train, and there's never a good time to train. So find an excuse or find a way, but hopefully throughout the series. And I will tell you, folks, if you have not listened to the podcast, the One Track Mind podcast with Lindsay and Matt when Kenny was a guest, it released last week. Do it. It is very, very good. Kenny, I was texting you throughout every time my boss walked in my office, and I had to stop the podcast, and then I shoot you a text, say, "Dude, this is great," and but it really was. And I think some of that, because you got into training there, I think some of that's going to translate into what we talk about here as we progress through this multi-part series. But I have babbled enough. I'm going to shut up and let you run away with it, Kenny.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of things we can talk about. We can start from the very beginning. We can start on, for those of you that are seasoned, where to begin now. Where do you want me to begin, Matt?
No better place than the beginning. I know there are several folks who have brand new pups. Where does it start, man? And let's just do it like building blocks. You got to have a foundation, or your house is going to crumble.
So, very first thing, is choosing the right dog. And what is the right dog? What is the right pup? The right pup is what fits your life for the majority of the year, not the 3 or 4 months that you're going to track with it. That is the most important thing.
Yep.
And I will tell you, I've chose the wrong one. Well, I chose the wrong one many times. That just didn't fit my life or my tracking style, and I think everyone knows by now for the most part. There may be some people watching that doesn't know, but we can pretty much train any dog to track. There's some that are better than others, obviously,
Yep.
but you really need something that's going to fit your life. If you live in an apartment, you don't want a bloodhound. They require a lot of exercise, contrary to what people often think.
Yep.
Same thing. You don't want a GSP if you live in an apartment unless you're going to put in a lot of exercise. So, that's the first thing I would say. And, there's a lot of great breeds out there, and even rescue dogs, but, that's where you want to start. And if you need help with that, reach out to me, probably reach out to anyone, any experienced person on here that you see commenting. So from there, I'll kind of start. If you get a young puppy, you know what, but let's back up. Before you even do any of that, let's say you get a dog, you get a puppy, and most people, before they even get a dog, they start searching online for training tips and advice, whether it's YouTube or, some of these Facebook groups. And let me tell you, there's a lot of terrible information out there. There is way more terrible information than there is good. And
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know. So you're going to spend a lot of time making a lot of mistakes if you follow some of these people. And some of this advice, it's just absolutely terrible. So the first thing that I would recommend, if you're new to this, find a tracking group in your state. Like Florida, we had the Florida Blood Trail Network, Georgia Blood Trail Network, Michigan has one. Every state, just about every state has a Facebook group. So that's where you want to start. Message the admin team, email us, message us, and find a mentor, and they're going to lead you in the right direction. And so that's the first thing I would say. Don't try to get a bunch of advice from all over the place, because you're going to end up making lots of mistakes.
Well, it's the classic, what do you think of this blood? Dead deer, go get it.
Right.
When it's muscle blood or liver, I think there's been more than one deer lost from that type of advice in hunting forums and chat rooms and Facebook groups. And the same way with training.
Yeah, I mean, some of the groups I had to leave. I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Someone would ask for advice, and you would see 150 bad comments to 5 good ones.
Yep.
And it's just, so I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. But where you want to begin is with obedience. And I'll tell you, my tracking dogs are not the most obedient. I don't need super solid heel and all this stuff, but you got to have a handle on your dog. And that's where you want to begin. So if you're getting a puppy, you see so many people want to focus early on drags and, working the pup's nose, and it's okay to dabble in it. But that's the time you really want to get a handle on that obedience. Really that 8 to 10 week range, or even 8 to 12 week range, I should say, is the best time to start with your sit, and your come here, whatever command you want to use. That's a critical time. You get past that 12-week phase. That's when you need to start working on your leash handling. And it's so that is crucial. I would say I would go as far as say you need to focus on that before you even worry about drags and scent work at a 8 to 12 week old pup. Like I said, you can dabble in it, but they don't have the attention span to really hang with it. And I will say this, my personal dogs, I mean, I let the dog tell me when they're ready. Every dog matures at a different rate. You can read all the books and magazines and watch YouTube videos, and some of them will tell you got to start at 8 weeks old. I've got dogs here that I started a year old.
So the natural question for me is, what are some of the indicators for you that someone could look for to know their dog is ready? What signs indicates the dog might be ready to start some scent work?
So I gauge that through the obedience.
Okay.
When you start seeing their attention span getting better, improving, they're listening better, they're staying focused more. And you don't have to spend a lot of time on the obedience. It's 5-10 minutes a day. I mean, really, or at least a session. Maybe you want to do 2 sessions a day, but that's where the foundation is built. It's not through the 8 to 10 week old drags.
Yeah.
And because you got to understand, we're asking a lot of a puppy to expect a 3 or 4 month old dog to stick with a trail, a quarter to half mile long that we're
That's
asking them to really struggle, to work it. The attention span is not there often. They don't stay focused. You end up getting frustrated. It comes out on the dog, and then you think they're no good.
Have you read the article, and this has been rattling in my head ever since you started talking about puppies. Have you seen the article? And it might even be a segment in Jen and A's book. I'm trying to remember, but it's on the UBT website under their resources, and it's under articles. And the title of the article is early training or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you read that?
I probably have. I've read
You
so
may
much
have.
stuff.
Yeah, what he's talking about there, and I've shared this with people. I'm curious your thoughts on it. Is talking about just the young puppy's nose is so much more powerful than its brain is able to process it. So it can be hard for them when they're really young on those tracks, because they just don't know what to do with it, because a little bit of a liver drag leaves a ton of scent. So if you don't understand that could cause frustrations potentially for someone who's not experienced in training a tracking dog. How would you respond to that?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I agree with that. That's why I said
It's a great article. I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, like I said, I've done it every way you can think of. I've made every mistake you can make that I know of. I'm sure I'm going to make some more along the way. But I can tell you this, I see a significant difference when I wait until they are mature enough to handle the rigorous training.
Yeah.
So as we get dogs in for training, and let me back up and say this too. Breed does matter when it comes to what age you start, because I do find that certain breeds need more time to mature. Male and female, there's a difference. Males mature slower. So as far as us training for, I'm going to say the general public, we typically don't take a dog in unless it's 6 months old, because that's the average age of when they can handle some some rigorous training. You know, and for what we're doing when we're training for someone else, you know, we're trying to get the most out of them the quickest we can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not saying that as we're cutting corners. We're pushing the dog.
Yeah.
And so we've got to have a dog that is able to be pushed. And there are times where we get them in even at 6 months old where I have to call the owner and say, "Hey, this dog's not ready, you know, come get it and, you know, bring it back in 3 months."
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, some of those dogs turn out to be some of the best. So don't think that, you know, you have to get on it right away. Don't think you can't get an older dog and train an older dog, because you can. I've got a Bavarian here now that I just got that's a year old and never been worked with, and we just started it, and you know that dog is after 1 week we already had it at 600 yards at 8 hours old.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw you
Um,
post that. I was tempted to call you, but I don't want to get a divorce.
well, no, that's a different one.
Oh, that's a different one. Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and I'm going to tell a little story here about how I like to choose my personal dogs. You know, and I'm going to tell this story about Lyle Avis. I went to Lyle's. We had picked out a pup that we have, a male pup from Lyle named Dre. And when we got up there to Lyle's house, there was this red female, red leopard, and she was spunky. I mean, just a little fireball running around, taking the deer leg from all the other dogs, taking the deer leg from her mama. And I told Lyle, I said, "Lyle, I need that pup. I gotta have that pup." He's like, "Well, someone's got a deposit on it." I said, "Well, if they don't come through, call me." And so I knew that dog was gonna have it. And I guess it was about a week or two later, I was on a cruise, and Lyle sent me a message, said, "Hey, pup's available." I said, "All right, I'm coming to get her."
Yeah.
So with that said, I like a dog with a lot of spirit. You know, I want the wildest, most rambunctious out of a litter. And typically for me, I prefer female. Um, Now I have both, but I like the females because they tend to get going sooner. They tend to bond with men better.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree with that.
so Perry Lawrence asked that question: "Do you think the drive is better in male than a female?" I don't think the sex makes the drive difference. Um, you know, I think there's genetic factors with breeds and just even individual dogs within a litter. You know, and one thing I want to say is you're looking for a breeder, you're looking for a pup, you know, talk to that breeder. You know, one thing I liked about Lyle and a lot of breeders out there, Tanya Ladner, when I got my first Ladner cur, I called Tanya and I told her what I was doing. She said, "Well, what do you want out of the dog?" And I told her. She says, "Well, I don't think this litter is going to be the right one for what you're wanting. I think this is going to be the right one." And she hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And the thing too is she said, "Look, I'd prefer to choose the puppy for you. You know,
Okay.
last thing you want to do is get hung up on color, or, you know, if you're wanting a top-notch dog, listen to the breeder.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a breeder that's asking all those questions, what attributes do you want? Do you want high drive? Do you want a lot of grit? Do you want it to bay? Do you want it to catch? You know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a good breeder is going to ask you those questions, and they're going to place the right pup in your hands. So that's the foundation of it.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me because I know I want a liver and tan female. That's what I want. But I also want it to have all of the other things, but I want it to be liver and tan. So, as I move to my next dog, when she gets in the twilight of her career, I'll have to shake that, because that really is, if you're going to use it for what we're using them for, you really need to be a little more receptive to the points you just made.
Yeah, and you made a point there. Now, if I was to get another bloodhound, it's going to be either liver and tan or red, and I'll tell you why. It's our environment.
Yeah. Right.
Having a black or saddleback dog, especially
Yep.
a bloodhound in this heat,
Yep.
they can't hold up. Not for the amount of tracking I do.
Right.
So that's something else to consider as you're choosing a dog is, look at your environment.
Yep.
We've got, it's hot here. We got a lot of swamps, so you're gonna want a dog that can swim.
Yep.
And not afraid of water. You're going to want a dog with stamina. And I need a dog that's tough. The stamina is a big factor, and that's one reason why I no longer run my bloodhound.
Yeah.
Or a bloodhound, I should say, because when I was going on, 8 to 12 tracks a day, that bloodhound couldn't hang, especially early season.
No. Yeah.
My blackmouth curs can.
Yep.
My Teckles can. Catahoulas can.
Yeah.
So these are all factors. Perry Lawrence just said hot weather affects Jet's black butt.
Yep.
He runs a black lab.
Okay. Yep.
So that's all. Yep. Let's see. Taking tons of tracks is a game of dog energy management. Absolutely, that's what Ethan Young just said. So, part of that is choosing that right breed. So someone who tracks the amount that I do and the environment that I do, I'm just better off with certain breeds.
Yeah. So if we recap, when you're selecting breeds, there's things to consider, not just what looks the sexiest, but the environment that you're tracking in, the climate that you're tracking in, the terrain that you're tracking in, the space you're going to have for it to live in. All of that stuff matters.
Right.
And I think that's probably one that may be overlooked. Now, I've thought about if I lived where you do, I don't know if I'd have a bloodhound. I'd probably have a blackmouth or something, some version of a cur, but because I've considered that here. But I've fallen in love with my bloodhound. That will likely be my next one. But it all matters. The environment. I'm in tall swamps. I want the dog to be able to fend for itself and cross that creek, and all of that matters.
Right. David Moore, Medor says on lead or off lead, big difference in dog of choice as well. I don't necessarily agree with that. That comes back to that training. You can,
Dave, yep.
You spend the time with the dog, you can slow them down. You can stop them from pulling. We talked about that on the podcast with Lindsay. She called me with her lab was having a pulling issue. Now I will say, obviously, a smaller dog, a lot of times you would think would be easier on lead, but then you have the factor where they go under everything. So that's something to consider. They go under all the vines. So there's a lot to consider. The best thing you can do is just talk to people. If you have a breed that you're leaning towards, reach out to some people that runs those breeds. Reach out to me. I probably trained every breed you could think of at some point.
Follow them on a track or even a training track if you can, because I'm my friends run Teckles, and I got my big old plotty bloodhound, and following my friends on their track. They are great dogs. I love them. I just don't think it's for me. It's like an electric blue Harley. I think they're beautiful, but they're not for me. And that's kind of how I'm starting to feel about the smaller dogs. They are every bit as capable and competent as any dog I'll ever have, but I just don't know if it's for me. And I learned that by running behind them. You're not running behind them, but following along, having exposure to them.
Right. Yeah. So, and I know this isn't really training, but this is where it begins.
Yeah.
You know, like Vicky Church said, family lifestyle is a major factor. Yes. That's, we talked about that earlier. It's your environment, your living arrangements is the biggest factor.
Yep.
Okay. So now you found a pup, found a dog, found a breeder, went to a pound, whatever you did. Where do you go from there? And that's where we talked about the start with obedience. And I'm not going to go into a lot on obedience unless someone wants to ask questions. There's a ton of information out there that's really good information. That's easy to find.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where do we start with scent work? And if I would have gotten home in time, I wanted to take a picture. I personally do not recommend starting in your yard. And I know that's where most people starts.
100%. I started brewing in the backyard, so now tell us the why behind it.
Why? Because there's so much. That's where they're used to. They're used to playing there. They're used to having a good time. There's a lot more distractions. And when you're starting a dog early on, you don't want all those distractions. You don't want them to think that it's playtime. You want them to be focused on the task at hand.
So separating, I relate that to then separating, work life from home life.
Right.
They have to an off-on switch. The yard is where you play and recreate, and the training ground is where it's business. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference. It really does. You may not see it now, but I mean, really, if you stop and think about it, it's kind of common sense. Just something that a lot of people overlooks.
Well, I will tell you, early on, it's not so much of an issue now that she's a little bit older, but out back here, my 80 acres, it's only the way it's laid out. You can only use so much of it for running tracks, a lot of ag fields, and you can use them. But, I was using the same grounds that we go for recreational walks on for laying my practice lines, and we're hitting the same spots over time for these practice lines. And I think, it had a little bit of an effect on her. So I found some state land and started going, but, so I guess I'm reinforcing your point. Separate the recreation area with the training area when practical to do so.
Absolutely. And another piece of advice I want to give when you're starting a dog out at first, I'm not going to tell you how we do it because, not because I'm trying to keep a secret, but, we do things a lot different just because of, I guess you'd say, our skill level from doing so many. So I'm going to try to keep it as basic as I can for people who doesn't have that level of experience. One thing I like to do is go to an area that has some transitional changes. We have an area down the road from me where we have, a blacktop road here and a mowed strip, and then some woods with some tall grass here, and I lay those lines right in the center. So if the dog goes too far that way, it hits that blacktop. Goes too far that way, it hits that edge. And this is just starting them. It will go in a straight line. and it just
Yeah.
helps keep that focus channeled, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So, and I don't, you need to find out what motivates your dog. I will tell you, most dogs, praise is motivation enough. Some are food driven, some are toy driven, but honestly, just about every dog we train, praise is adequate. You know,
Okay.
and, we actually had one dog that its motivation was a bowl of water. You know,
You like to drink, huh?
it wanted a bowl of water at the end of the track.
Okay. Yeah. You want what you want, I guess.
Yeah, and that
Oh.
sorry, text message coming through. Anyways, oh, I lost Matt.
No, I'm here. I just got to let my wife's dog out of the office, or we're going to be all annoyed all night. So go ahead.
Okay. I forgot where I was at now. Okay. Yeah, I can't even remember where we're at now. Between the text message and the screen going that way, I lost focus.
Sorry, I think we were talking about what motivates the dog. Find out what the dog likes and what motivates the dog is kind of. And we've had a bowl of water. If that sparks any thought.
Yeah, yeah. So again, 9.9 out of 10 dogs that we see, praise is adequate, and dogs love praise. You know, get down on the ground, act like a little kid. Act a way that you'd be embarrassed if your friend saw it, and the dogs love it.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so I recommend for the first trail, you know, do a 40-yard straight liver drag if you've never trained before. Liver leaves a lot of scent.
Yeah.
You know, and it's cheap. You can get it at the grocery store. It can be beef liver. It doesn't matter. That early on, you're just trying to teach them to follow a scent line and stick to it.
Yep.
You know, you can. Some people use blood. Just remember, blood is basically a super absorbent. You know, and most of the scent in the blood, like from a deer, is the contact with the hide as it comes out with the dander. Of course, there's iron and all that, but liver works just fine. And I honestly, I'd rather use it than I would hide. Both leave a ton of scent on the ground. So keep it simple, straight line. Again, I'm talking to people who's never done this, so we'll get into some more advanced stuff later on.
Yep.
And if the dog doesn't do it, you know, don't get frustrated. You know, just try to help them along. Even if they just smell it a little bit along the way, that's fine. You know, get them to the end, get them their prize, give them a bunch of praise. You know, play tug of war with a little piece of hide at the end. You know, make it fun. Now, okay, let me go ahead with some of these comments. So kind of jumping all over the place.
They're coming in. There's some good ones. So where do you want to start, buddy? I'll put it up.
I'm going to start with Brian, the last comment that came in. Building trust with a young dog goes a long ways to make them want to please you. That begins with your obedience. That's why I said you want to start with obedience. Forget about scent work. You know, if you want to have fun with the dog and do a little bit, that's fine. But you build that relationship and that bond with that dog through basic obedience.
Yep. Just comment on this one.
Okay, my bloodhound will shut down if you use negative reinforcement. If you praise him, he acts like a kid who hit exactly.
Yep.
Michael Beck says, one of the most important things in all dog training is train the dog in front of you. Let's see. Vicky Church says relationship with the dog. Again, all of that begins with basic obedience.
Oops, I put up Vicky's got several. I grabbed the wrong one. Yeah.
Yeah, the last one she put in says relationship with the dog.
Okay. Yeah, that relationship is huge. Oh yeah, I see it. Yep. Relationship with the dog. There's a couple more that I thought was worth. Here's one. Any advice on a Potterdale in the process of getting one trained? Says Jason Larimore.
Not my breed of choice. I just got to say it.
Sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to ambush you with that one.
Be patient. When we get into the crittering part, pay attention to that.
So, but let's talk about that though. If we're talking about breed selection, so there's something about the Potterdale. I've never heard of a Potterdale, so I don't even know what it is. So, is there something that's generally a general characteristic of that breed that is something to be aware of that he's going to have to train through? That's ubiquitous with the breed. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, we could run down a lot of rabbit trails there, but
okay. So just high level in general, to give Jason something to be thinking about.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you start talking about different breeds, you start talking about different characteristics like terriers.
Yeah.
And that's what he's dealing with.
Okay.
Same thing with a Yog Terrier and a Jack Russell. They are gamey little dogs, and they want to hunt everything. So that's going to be your biggest challenge.
But in terms of their ability to sense the line and all that, they're as good as any. It's just their distractions.
Distractions for sure. Again, I mean, if that's the dog you like, you just gonna that's stuff you're gonna have to work through. I just wanted to, keep that in mind.
And so a lot of distraction training, Jason, have that high on your radar as you progress. Distraction training might be something that you have to focus on more than others.
Right. And Wayne Reese, he runs Jack Russells. He said, let's see. He said terriers have a huge prey drive. You got to stay on them, but it's doable. Yeah. The problem is that they want to hunt anything that moves. So keep that in mind. You're going to have a time with that. Train in areas with that.
So, and I want to, we have so many good comments, but let me pull this one up because it's Dave again, and it's a question that I wanted to bring up. Have you had a dog that are pure prey drive, or at least the major driver for them? He's got a wire-haired Dachshund. After recovery, could care less what I say to him as long as he gets the tug.
Yeah, I mean that's what I want out of a dog. Every dog that I choose, I want it to have a high drive, high prey drive. Now, I tend to choose breeds that are easier to channel that prey drive. A wire-haired Dachshund's one of them. I mean, one thing that I do with them, and I do have wire-haired Dachshunds. I have 12 of them actually.
Yeah.
And I have to work them in areas that has a heavy concentration of rabbits because that's one of their nemesis. Same thing with squirrels and field mice and
kryptonite, huh?
Oh yeah, rabbits is a big one with them. But we have an area that is just loaded with rabbits, and that's where we work them in quite a bit.
So the reason I wanted to bring Dave's up when he talked about prey drive, so even you spent a lot of time on it because a lot of good comments coming in. But you talk about prey drive. I'm curious what prey drive means to you, and the reason I ask that is because I see these Teckles, and they are the most prey-driven little snots I have ever seen. Relentless, just like what Dave said. Just want to shred the hide. Just won't quit. They'll drop over dead before they give up themselves, kind of thing. You know,
Absolutely.
to me, that's pure prey drive. But then I got this big lug over here on the couch, my bloodhound, whom I loved absolute to death. She doesn't. She, you know, she will track and track and track, but it is nothing like that. She is not wanting to get to that dead deer in the sense that she's got to just tear that deer up. She wants to she's driven because she wants to keep going, but it is totally different. So I don't know if I consider that prey drive as much as just drive, tracking drive. Do you distinguish a difference, or is it in general? I think we call it the same, but boy.
Yeah, so that's what I tell everyone. Your average bloodhound loves the trail.
Yeah, that's the game.
And I say average because someone like Joey McDonald has one that's a freak. I think it has part cur in it or something. And I've trained some like that, but for the most part, a bloodhound just loves the trail.
Yeah, Joe Tenney and I were talking about that earlier today. We had a conversation with his bloodhound. They don't, and we kind of talked about it last night in the judges committee meeting. When we was talking about the elite test. My dog isn't going to give a crap about that high. As long as there's a track, she's going to keep going, and it's just funny and sometimes embarrassing in a way, but she wants to find the deer, and she does.
Oh yeah. Put up Randy Duvall's comment there. High drive and focused prey drive is a trainable solution.
High drive and focused prey drive. Okay, let's talk about that then.
So that's kind of what I was talking about. I like a high drive dog, but I will tell you there are some breeds out there that it is tough to focus that prey drive, no matter how much training you do. Yacht Terriers is one of them. You better have some experience and some very, very strong patience with that dog to get that prey drive focused, because they want to kill everything. And it doesn't matter. It could be an elephant. They're going to try to kill it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay, that makes sense. I know what he's saying there now.
And David says it's a hunter who doesn't eat the meat but loves to hunt.
Yeah, talking about the bloodhounds.
There's your bloodhound for you.
Yeah, and that, Dave, that's a great point. Dave and I are going to do a Tales on Trails podcast next week. So he's been on before, and he's got a fun bear track we're going to talk about. But anyway, that's
so. If you want to talk about breeds, I'll tell you, if I had to really nail it down, out of all the dogs we have come through, I'm just going to tell you, as far as just straight tracking, I don't think you can beat a wire-haired Dachshund.
Yeah, I've heard you say it before, and I will tell you, my limited exposure to them, I would have to agree, man.
I mean, it's like they just come out of the womb doing it. But you do have some challenges there, like I said. But they're also not for everyone. They're not for everything. So I'm just going to throw out a few breeds to keep on your radar. The wire-haired Dachshund, long-haired Dachshunds too. You start getting into your average smooth coat, everyday Dachshund.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many lines out there that's watered down.
Okay. Yeah.
Most of, I shouldn't even say most. Even then, even on your wire-hairs, you got to watch. Make sure you get it from the right lines and all that. Anyways, I'm gonna say wire-haired Dachshund. then I'm gonna have to say your cur breeds. And when I say cur breeds, I'm talking blackmouth cur, Catahoula, and I'll even put the crackhead Lacey's in there. If you know me, I'm just gonna say how I feel.
That's funny. Yeah.
And I've trained some great Lacey's. I've owned a great one great Lacey. Don't know that I'll own another one, but I like the cur lines. And I got to put a lab up there. Have to. It's it's a good family dog. They want to please you. If I had to choose 3, that would be my top 3 that I recommend.
Yep.
And so Vicky Church says genetics, and genetics does play a key role. And don't get me wrong, you can luck up and find a diamond in the rough, but I'm going to tell you, lines do make a difference in some of these breeds, especially.
Yeah. Here, look at Michael Beck's question. Can you elaborate on using dogs bred for bird hunting for training? Interesting question, Mike.
Yeah, I warned Mike when he got that GSP.
It's doing well though, but yeah.
Yeah, and he also knows I was right. No, I mean, any of your hunting breeds is going to excel. Just some have every dog has quirks, just like every person has quirks, and you got to work through that. And bird dogs from hunting lines tend to be high drive.
Yeah.
Now, again, it goes into your tracking style too. You're looking for a dog that is slow, methodical, true to the line, nose down. A bird dog's probably not what you're probably not going to be as happy with that.
Yeah.
We've all heard the term bird dogging.
Yep.
On a line. That's typical. Don't get me wrong, some will stay focused, some will stay nose down and stay focused on the line, nose down, tail up, and all that. Especially on a tougher, colder trail. I'll say this out of bird dogs. Let's talk about bird dog breeds for a minute. Some of the best tracking dogs and bird dog breeds that we've trained have been Boykins, and English Cockers. And I know that's probably
English Cockers. Okay.
Yeah. And I honestly, I'm not a Boykin fan. They're not for me. But they do especially I'm talking bird wise, they do very, very well tracking. I was very shocked. Every Boykin that we have trained to track has excelled. And I almost feel like based on that training, I feel like they have a little more fur drive than they do feather.
Really? Okay.
English Cockers, I mean, man, they're just I like them. They kind of fit that lab kind of personality, I guess you'd say.
Yep.
They want to please you. They love to hunt. They're high drive. Then I've had German wire-haired pointers, DDs. I would choose them over a short hair. Again, for me, it's the drive, it's the grit. You take a DD or GWP, and I personally think they have more, based on my experience, they have more fur drive than they do feather.
What's the DD again?
The
Remind
Dravar.
me. Dratar, yeah. Dratar, yeah. Fur and feather. There was one I wanted to pull up here. Where was it? I guess kind of bouncing around, but Mike Aguilar, I would say running off lead is 10 times better on them than being on lead. Their stamina is way better.
He has bloodhounds.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, though. I mean, and I would tend to agree. At least my stamina is better when I'm not being dragged through the freaking whatever with my 85-pound bloodhound. But do you think there's something to that in general, though? Just not, Matt brought it up with that opposition reflex where they're in 4-wheel drive mode all the time, to quote my friend Terry, pulling against that harness because they can't go. Because I found when I took her off the leash, she'll go, but she doesn't like launch, and it's like, I think I always interpreted it because she felt she had the freedom to move about as needed, not having to force herself or force me to let her go where she wants to go. And maybe I'm making that up, but that's just how I processed it in my head.
So you just brought up something that I'll address, and some people may not agree with this, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. You said you use a harness, right?
Yep. Oh, what a harness is made for.
People use harnesses for dogs that pull.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
So how do you correct a dog from pulling?
No, I'm listening. Take the harness off.
A collar is the best way.
Yeah. Yep.
How does a mother correct their puppy? Pressure
grabbing them by the nape of the neck. Yeah.
Pressure on the neck. So I prefer to use a collar in my training. I actually prefer to use a collar while I'm tracking, even on lead, because but by the time you're out there in the field, you should have broke that dog from pulling that way. And how does that happen? Through many hours behind that dog. Again, goes back to obedience. Spend that time doing the on leash obedience. So when people put a harness on because their dog pulls, it's masking the problem instead of solving the problem.
Yep, for sure.
And
I keep. Go ahead, buddy.
So I want to say, you want to train at your pace. You cannot keep up with a dog. I don't care what kind of shape you're in. You're not going to keep up with a dog ever.
You are not. Nope. Yep. Lyle just jumped off, Kenny, but as I keep scrolling through these comments, we talked early on about letting the breeder help match the pup to the handler, and there are like 4 or 5 comments in here, and this is the Lyle Avis appreciation show, I guess, because I laid it on pretty thick with just the yeoman's work he's doing in the membership benefits committee, but a lot of people giving him a shout out for just his mastery at matching pups with people. So well done, Lyle.
Yeah, even though I got a midget from him. I got a midget hula.
You got a midget hula?
I just tease him on that. Yeah, I know we kind of jumping around here, but the way the comments are coming.
No, that's fine. What do you got? Which one?
Let's see. Brian says, I think genetics and breeding make training easier a lot of the time because it comes more natural. Yeah, and you can really see that, especially in the retriever world. When you start talking about, field trial dogs, hunt test dogs, there's something to it. It's not so much like tracking tests and certifications years ago, when retrievers started testing, through their field trials and their hunt test. They didn't, you just got a lab from wherever, Now the standard is you want to get a lab from lines that have champions in them.
Mm-hmm.
If your goal is to have that superstar retriever. And I'll say this, I have a lab, I have a duck dog, and we got him from proven lines, and I was skeptical, is it really worth the extra $2,000? It is. He has retrieving drive like no dog I've ever seen. So genetics definitely play a key role.
Yeah, for sure.
So Jason Bell's comment here.
Yep.
Said he's seen Jeff Still do some masterful tracking on lead while judging. He trained his dogs not to pull. They would stop when he gave a command, just like a horse. Impressive. I've brought up Jeff Still and his dog many times in the past, and Jason's right. I mean, Jeff Still tracks with a Catahoula.
Okay. Okay.
Let's see. Keep up the good Catahoula talk, Laos.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go through and make sure we didn't miss any comments real quick.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through them too, so if you see one, snag it. Here's one about Catahoula from Mike Braden. My Catahoula loves to trail, but when that track comes to a live deer, he becomes like a catch dog and loses all distraction of anything else. Yeah. Yeah, that probably came in when we were talking about trade drive. I would tell you my bloodhound does too a little bit. We jump on, she gets hot. She wants to go. She wants to go.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So I'll just tell you about my current blackmouth cur, Dixie. She's my go-to. And I'll be the first one to tell you she's not the best dog I ever had. And I think people tell me sometimes I downplay her, but she doesn't care anything about a dead deer. Yeah. She'll get me to the deer. If it's dead, she's going to get us there, but she doesn't care anything about it.
Yep. Same line. She don't care.
She wants something that's going to get up for her to chase.
Okay. Yep.
And that that's her motivation for tracking. Hey, maybe we're gonna have some action. And I practice wait times probably more than most in my area. So she doesn't get the chase as often as some of the other people, but hey, she still does the job. And it keeps her motivated.
Yeah. And that's what matters. Are they inspired enough to get to the end of the line? Hopefully to a dead deer,
So we got some interesting comments on harnesses here that I think we need to.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's see. Whichever one you want to choose first. So I thought a harness would be nice so they would have full range of motion with their head. Interesting take. I'll definitely keep that in mind. Well, they'll have full range of motion if they're not pulling. If you break them from pulling, they have full range of motion.
Yep.
There's another factor of it there. A harness, and it wouldn't so much matter in an on lead tracking situation. Well, I guess it could, because I have gotten up to live deer. We've caught up to live deer with on lead and with my bloodhound, and he got hooked. We were going through some thick stuff, and he got in there before I could, or before I even realized it, and he got hit. Well, you got a harness, that's more stuff to get tangled up on. But I still won't recommend one.
Okay.
We'll go to Wesley. I use a harness with my Dachshund to keep the lead up and out of the way of his feet. I don't know how important that is. I mean, we track every day. We train every day with Dachshunds with a collar. Yeah. Some people that they send us their dog, they want us to use a harness, and we will if they're adamant about it, but it's definitely not my choice.
Well, and apparently it's not Randall Duvall's either.
Yep, another trainer.
Yep, exactly. And here's his previous comment. Teach any dog to pull first and foremost, or teach any dog not to pull first and foremost, then we can have some fun learning to track.
Yep. Again, back to obedience.
Yep.
Get that obedience, get that foundation first.
Yep.
And that's the thing. I would be willing to say that 80% of people don't spend enough time with leash obedience.
I didn't. I absolutely didn't. I jumped right to the the liver drags, the hide, the deer leg, the all of the fun stuff because that's what you want, especially when you don't know what you're doing, like I didn't. That's what everybody wants to see their dog do. They want to see it do the work that they got it to do.
That's right.
So it's tough. But I will tell you, when I train my next one, obviously I have better resources now with you and others and what I've learned over the years. But it's going to be hard to not do that.
It is. It is hard. And like I said, if you want to do a little bit here and there, that's fine.
Yeah.
But keep it fun. But you're doing yourself and the dog a disservice by not having it prepared before you start it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And like I said, by total laziness on my part, she won't set. She's gonna look at me like, what does that mean? She'll come when I call her every time. Nearly, I say nearly. She is a bloodhound, but she can't sit. She won't stay. I tie her off, and it's just I wasn't interested. Didn't worry about it, and I'm going to on the next one. And frankly, it's not too late now. I should work on some of that with her now, but I just haven't.
There's two main things I want out of my tracking dogs: sit and hear.
Yep.
That dog better recall. I mean, as soon as I give the command, whether it's verbal or a tone or a vibrate, whatever you choose to do, you better see immediate response because that could be life or death of the dog.
Yes. Yep.
And don't think just because you're on lead that it's not important. It's 100% important because it's just a matter of time before you slip and fall, drop a lead, something, a hasp break, something go wrong. It's going to happen.
It's happened to me twice, and I've only been tracking. It happened to me twice in my first 2 years. The second time I did have a GPS collar on her, the first time I didn't. I take that back. It's happened 3 times, and it's 2 times she didn't have a collar on, and she wasn't, she wasn't good on recall at that point. It was scary. I agree with you.
Yeah, and Mike Alguire, I don't know if he's still on here. Mike lost one of his bloodhounds, and I can't remember. Randy Vick is actually one of them that found it. The tracking community came together. I was tied up at the time, but I was actually on my way to go help him when they found the dog. But and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was before Mike had a tracking collar tracking system. He has one now, and now he's off lead. But I lost my bloodhound. Didn't have a tracking collar. all it took was one time. And I run one, and I ran him on lead.
Yep.
So, well, for the most part, the last couple of years, I did not. All right, so
Let's look at Dave's again.
Okay.
Back on the training. If you have a seasoned dog, 6 to 9 years old, and doing 70 plus tracks a year, how much off season training are you doing?
you want an honest answer to what I do?
Yep.
Nothing. I mean, that's just the reality. I do very, very little with Dixie. I mean, she's got it.
Yeah. And I hear that a lot, people with experienced dogs that are seasoned don't do a lot in the off season, especially if they're experienced handler, because, they're learning the tells. They know the tells and the dog knows the job.
Right. Let's see, Ryan. There's a great book by Eric Stambro, E-Collar with Conflict for Pets and Working Dogs. He trains canines for police work. Very good insight on teaching recall and communicating with the dog. That's another one, E-Collars. They are so often misused.
Oh, yeah.
They should not be used for punishment, but that's what people use them for. And they ruin their dogs.
Yep.
Yep. If you're going, collar conditioning, we can touch on that a little bit. First off, your dog needs to know the command before you even put a collar on it. If you want that dog to come here, that dog better know that verbal command, the audible verbal command. And if you want to do whistle, that's fine too. They need to know that command before you ever put a collar on it. And we, as trainers, we get older dogs that they don't know what here is or come is.
Mm-hmm.
What's the easiest way to teach that? Put them on a long rope, give the command, pull them to you. Give them a treat. Let them get out. Let them forget about what that leash is on them. Give them the command. They don't come, pull them to you. When they get to you, give them a treat.
Yep.
And just keep doing that. Eventually they're going to learn. Once they learn that, then you can put that on there, and hit that tone button, give them the command. I like to give them the command, hold the tone button down. They get all the way to me. I let it go. And eventually all I got to do is just tap it and they know, hey, that means come on.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to the correction part, you don't start at the highest setting. You start at the lowest setting and you work your way up till you see a reaction from that dog. And I'll say this, on average, we train a lot of dogs. We train on average 10 dogs a month. And I'll say this, the average dog, average setting for a stimulus correction is about 3 on average. Some dogs are a little higher, some dogs are a little lower, but the average is 3.
Yeah. Yep. Jason Bell. I give the verbal and tone, then pull them back with a treat. Preach, Kenny.
So let's go down to Larry's here.
Yep. I was just looking at it. Yep.
For those of us new, how often do you recommend continued training? My thought was as much as possible, but maybe that's not right. Also, I primarily used feet. Should I be mixing in blood, liver, etc.? I don't use blood.
Nope.
Some people tell you to. I don't use blood. The only blood in my freezer is for testing purposes, and I'll just go ahead and tell you it's for the handler. It's not for the dog.
So before we go to the next question, Kenny, let me. I think you just answered it. So I told you I was running some practice lines, helping my friend get ready for his UBT2 coming up here in Illinois, and he's getting into tracking. Got a smooth coat, Dotson Lucy, little sweetie, and she run her line, and we were walking back, and he says, "How much do you think the blood really matters?" And I'm like, "Well," and I use your explanation of it's like a cotton ball. It absorbs the other stuff, but does it matter? No, it doesn't matter, but it can be helpful if it's there, right? I mean, if it's there, it's part of the scent cocktail.
It is. It is.
But it doesn't matter if it's not there.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah. I've described that scent cocktail, the disturbed earth, and all of the things that we talk about the scent cocktail. So now I'm putting myself out there, and I want you to comment on it, Kenny. And maybe we're skipping ahead to the more advanced training and stuff.
That's fine, because this is just laying the groundwork for the series.
Yeah, but I've described it as, if you could, the declining health pheromone is part of that scent cocktail.
Correct.
When it's there, I say you could take any one of or multiple pieces of that scent cocktail away, and the dog's going to be fine. But the minute you take away that declining health pheromone, all bets can be off at that point. They can still track it, but it's not. They may not necessarily be committed to it.
Yeah. So if you take away the pheromone, you take away the, let's just say, infection, anything related to that deer being wounded, with the exception of blood. I am going to say that because we train a lot without blood.
Right.
You take away the pheromone, you take away, what are you essentially tracking? A live deer.
Exactly. Yes. Right. And I guess that's what my point to that was. Yeah.
So, but I'll tell you this: I've handled a lot of dogs on test, and I don't know if any of the judges are watching that's testing me. Most of the time I tell them, don't even put blood on my test line. Unless you're required, don't even put blood on it. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In fact, I'd prefer it not to be there, so I'm not looking for it.
Yeah. That'll make you crazy. At least it did me, working so hard to see the blood on a line. Let's look at Larry's comment or question. For those of us new, how often do you recommend continued training? My thought was, we talked about that one, didn't we?
Yeah. So continued training. I'll say this: if you have, especially a first-year dog, maybe even a second-year dog, a first-year dog for sure, you need to be working that dog. Yeah. And I'm going to go out on the limb here. I'm going to say it's not about the dog at that point. If you have that dog trained, that dog knows what it's doing, which Larry's dog does. It's not about the dog. It's about you.
Yep.
You are going to get more out of continuing working that dog than that dog's going to get out of it.
But that's what training, to me, that's what training is. We operate as teams. We refer to ourselves as tracking teams, and the dog understands his job probably fairly on. It can, and again, I'm asking you to correct me here, but this is how I'm processing it in my head. Fairly early on, the dog kind of will start to understand its job. It will become more proficient in its job as it gets older and gets more experience in the problem solving and things like that. But it's the handler. We always talk about trust your dog. The test, everyone's pissing down their leg on tests because, it's a test. But the more in tune you are with your dog, the more comfortable you can be on that test. And the only way you do that is following your dog with intentional training in scenarios, whether it's a blind track or you create, you know, certain scenarios within your line, whether it's a back track, a V back, a big scent gap, you know, a scent pool, any of that type of thing, you know, to know what your dog looks like when they're in those scenarios and how to work it out. If you know what your dog looks like, you can be far more comfortable, and that's training you. That's how I view it. You know, that's how I view it. So, you know, I don't, you know, we'll hit a couple tracks a month. You know, in the heat of the summer, we don't do much at all because I hate the heat and it sucks. You know, I don't want to live in Florida in the summer. But you know, this time of year we're all jonesing, and it's good mental stimulation for the dog, even if it's you know, call it a training track or not. It's the dog getting out and using that brain and that problem solving and just being a dog and having fun, because most of the time dogs love it. So why the hell not? And meanwhile, you can be learning something about them.
Yeah, and here's the deal. You know, there's a lot of debate on pheromone, you know, interdigital or pheromone. I'm gonna say I like saying pheromone more than interdigital because
Yeah, I agree.
people get wrapped up in elk doesn't have interdigital, bears don't have interdigital.
Nope.
They still, you know, hogs don't have interdigital. They still produce pheromones.
Right.
Every mammal does. You know, it's elk, it's through the metatarsal and the urinary. Bears is through the pedal gland in the bottom of the pad of the paw, the bottom of the paw. You know, hogs is through the metatarsal and the salivary glands. You know,
What about a horse?
What's that?
What about a horse?
A horse. I'm not sure where they produce it at, but they do.
But they're producing it, aren't they?
Absolutely.
I've told it. I think I mentioned it on this stream before. I mentioned it to you, and even on my podcast. My buddy tracked a horse. They were searching for a live horse. They found a dead horse. You know, and his dog never tracked a horse before. Oakley marched to it because of the pheromone. However it's emitted, it is there in some fashion.
Correct. And so this is the second time this comments came up, so I just want to.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up.
Do you ever have events in Tennessee? We do not right now. Stacy Frost, Stacy, if you're watching this or listening to this, get on the ball. No, Stacy has been talking about organizing one, so that is something we will be working on, hopefully for next year. We actually get a lot of requests for Tennessee and Kentucky, so those are two states that we're looking and possibly even just trying to find something along the border there.
Yeah. No, you're not getting away with this one. Kenny, did you help Eric write the book? You're spot on exactly with what he was teaching in reference to the e-training.
Oh yeah. Didn't help write the book. Although a lot of people has been pushing me to write a book.
Well, put me in that category. I think you should.
So I'm gonna change the subject now.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, Ryan said glad he's not the only one asking. So one of the things, you know, we talked about some member benefits and all that.
Yep.
Matt, I sent it to you, and I sent a lot of people advice on and kind of an overview guide on training their dog. That is something that's going to be in our members area on our website. But I'm still going to help people out. One thing I want to touch on is that we hear often, should you train your own dog? Should you have your dog trained? I'll say this, at the end of the day, the results are very similar. And I'm not going to say this because I'm a trainer, but I will tell you that a trainer can typically do it in half or even a quarter of the time than you can. However, there's some learning curves with that. When you do it yourself, the whole time you are building that bond with your dog. It can still be built even if you have it trained by someone else. But don't think that if you send a dog off to a trainer that dog is a finished dog, because it's not. And if anyone tells you that it is, they're wrong. They're lying to you. You still have to work that dog. You have to learn that dog. The dog has to learn you. So that's one advantage to training it yourself. But Matt, you trained your own yourself, right?
Yeah.
Very time consuming in the beginning.
It's a commitment. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, I don't, if anyone follows Al Sherman took a whole events and testing season off because he got a new dog, and his commitment was to that dog. And that's someone that has a lot of experience and still had, put that level of commitment in it. I've heard people say, well, if you don't have time to train your dog, you don't have time to track. I disagree with that as well. So I don't think there is necessarily a wrong way, but I will say either way, you're going to have to work your dog. And, which goes back to what, Larry asking how often.
Yeah.
I recommend people, if you're training your dog yourself, I honestly say no more than 3 days a week.
Yeah.
You want to keep it fun for the dog. And you don't want to burn yourself out because it can't happen.
And as the dog advances and you're actually laying lines in out in the field, that can wear you out. If you're just going to chuck it around, the yard where you recommend not training, but if that's what you're doing, that's a little different. But as that dog advances and you're advancing into hoof only, and I've described that in my podcast. Is it hard to train a dog? Well, no, it's not hard, but it's a commitment. It's time consuming. You have to plan for it. You have to do it with a purpose. You have to know what your intent is, to maximize what you're trying to get out of it. What are you trying to, and that, let's talk about that, Kenny, if we're talking about training, and even I struggle with this now. The track I laid just this last weekend, I just walked through the woods so my dog could go sniff something, and she did fine. She did great, but there was nothing hard about it. It was only a 700-yard track, and a couple of 90s for a 3-year-old dog with many tracks. It wasn't hard. 20 hours old or something, but there was no real purpose other than, okay, it's the first one, knock the rust off, get her out, and let her actually follow a line again. But training with a purpose, and maybe this is part 2. We can get into that more, and we'll get into more of the science stuff, I suspect, too, similar to what you were talking about with on Lindsay and Matt's podcast. But
yeah, that'll be next week, because we need to get into the science before we get into the
training with a purpose
tactics. Tonight is just kind of doing a broad overview, of what's to come. And Matt, if people come back and say that they want it, we can do a whole segment on obedience. I just feel like there's so much good information out there that we don't need to cover that again. And, there's a lot of good obedience information out there.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah.
The biggest thing is doing it. But we need, and it may only be, it'll end up being the whole thing, because people are going to ask questions, and we're going to deep dive into scent profile, science behind it, how it all works, and I'll have some pictures put together and we'll do some stuff. But as we get into, like you said, the purpose driven training, I think it's going to be eye opening for people because it's not always about an 800-yard trail.
Yeah.
It's not always about a 24-hour-old trail.
Yep.
Maybe you only have 15 minutes that day. You can do a lot in 15 minutes if it's focused and purpose driven.
Yep. Yep.
So these are all things that this series is going to lead into.
Well, so let me bring this comment up based on that comment, Kenny. Tony Hayes says, so far I've done all the gambles training. My biggest fear is I'm not gonna be able to progress him further. And I think, Tony, if you stay tuned in to this entire series, when we get into that purposeful training with a purpose, you're probably going to find some ways to break through what you think might be a plateau. I bet you can get there. You can probably do more than you think you can.
I'll say this. The number one mistake made during the actual scent portion of training is not pushing your dog hard enough.
Yep. I'm way guilty of that. And you know what I think part of my guilt, what caused me is I wanted to see that super sexy overlay on my Onyx. I wanted to see her smoke that line. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to go out to 24 hours, or I don't want to put it too big of a scent gap, So all of that stuff, making it too easy for the dog. And so I could have that sexy overlay, which, by the way, a sexy overlay on a tracking, to me, I'm starting to view that as a negative. If I look at that and all I see is a single line overlay of the track, what did we get out of that?
Nothing.
No. And my thinking has shifted on that over the last, year and a half. I want to see her get out there and struggle. And some of that comes with experience. The new handlers, it comes. And I don't know how to tell you to get over it, because I don't think you can. It just comes in time. But you just have to know that sexy overlay isn't it's fun. It makes you feel good. It confirms that your dog knows what it's doing, but it's not developing the dog. You just have to know that ugly offline sometimes is the best thing, because now that dog is developing those problem solving skills. You give it a challenge to work through, and it should be making mistakes in training and practice, so it doesn't make the mistakes in the field. That's my take on it.
That's right. Yeah, and keep in mind, we're not teaching these dogs anything they don't have the ability to already do. It's natural abilities.
Yeah.
If the dog had to survive in the wild, guess what they're going to do? They're going to track down wounded, sick game, and they're going to eat. We're just harnessing those natural abilities.
Yep. Make sure they understand their role. So here you go, Kenny. Larry Beckham says, I feel like sending my dog to y'all gave him a good head start. And since I've got him back, it seems like he's training me more than I am him. Every time I question what he's doing, I figure out I'm wrong.
Yep. Larry has a good dog. You see what kind of dog that is in that picture right there?
I can't see. What is it? It's tiny.
No, it's not tiny.
I mean, the picture's tiny. I can't see it.
It's a big floppy eared slobber box.
That's what I like. So I don't think I didn't notice that you cut yourself off when you started saying Larry's got a really good dog. You were going to say that until you remembered it's a bloodhound. Then you said no, I can't see. I got to deflect and say it's a floppy eared slobber.
No, he's got a good dog.
I know, I'm teasing you.
115 pounds.
That's a big dog.
Yeah.
What's this? I haven't read it. Brian, I pushed a 2 dog on lead, 0.71 mile over 12 hours this morning. Might have been our longest practice line to date. Our biggest struggle is that the live deer scent on practice tracks.
Yeah. And honestly, that's what we're going to get into.
Yeah.
So just throw a teaser out there, Matt. You may know the answer to this, but I'm asking you a question.
Fire.
What do you feel is more important, distance or age of a trail?
Um, I, I, I don't know, man. I, I can see benefits to both. I guess I'm gonna lean. I'm gonna lean towards age, but I don't know.
And why is that?
I lean towards age because it's a colder line. In general, they have to work harder to stay on it. And if it's a nice, fresh, long line, it's nice and easy. And as long as they can smell it nice and strong, they're going to keep going. And if it's not hard work, then it's, what do you gain? And so, that's just my thinking. I would rather have an older line. If we're just talking about age and versus distance, not checks or anything like that, but just purely age over distance, I'm going to take age over distance, I guess.
One of the biggest benefits to age is the higher risk of contamination along the trail.
Here you go. Yep. Okay.
Now, one can argue that longer distance, but yes, but however, it's age. You go lay a line and you go run it in 2 hours. How many critters do you think has really crossed that line versus letting it age 24 hours?
Right. Yep. Yep.
So again, we're just kind of giving some sneak peeks into what's to come.
Well, and that's good. So let me put this one up there as we talk about it. Wesley Bivens says, seeing the overlay on my dog zigzagging along the track tells me that he's following the scent trail. So I can't remember, Wesley, what type of dog you have, but zigzagging, what do you think, Kenny? Probably bracketing?
Yep.
My shepherd, when I started out, that's how she did it. Boom, boom. And I learned that she was just probably bracketing that scent. My bloodhound does not do that.
And typically you see that more on a hotter trail.
Yeah. Okay. But see, I don't consider zigzagging all over the place. I just consider that bouncing off the edge of the scent.
Right.
And
working the scent cone.
Working the scent cone. I consider that really good. That's not, that's not a check. That's not a challenge. It's just how the dog works it. Assuming I'm understanding what you're saying, Wesley.
Yeah, I think you got it there. And that's
Tony Hayes says age.
Yep.
over distance. I agree. All right. So here let's put Dave up there again. Dave, yeah, you owe me. You're getting featured a lot tonight. I know this is just a preview, but some point would like to hear how Kenny preps for a track. Meaning, my word here, Dawson crushed every training track when young. I think it was so easy for him because he was tracking me, my boots, my clothes, my scent. I've had that conversation recently with somebody.
Yeah, let me just go ahead and tell you. Do they track you in your scent? Yes.
Of course.
Can you prevent that? Can you eliminate your scent? No.
No.
But I've heard people say they track rubber, they track that. If you ever study scent work and the dissipation rate of scent, you will understand age is key.
Yeah. Yeah. It just makes sense the more and more I think about it. Yeah. But in terms of, tracking the conversation I had was with, and I'm trying to remember who it was. They were constantly laying their own lines, and whoever it was went to a test. I think they said they tested, and the dog didn't do well because somebody else laid the line. And so his dog was just becoming accustomed to tracking him instead of the scent, the hoof scent. And that's where it's beneficial to find a training buddy to train tracks with. Would you
My
agree?
question there is, how old are you letting the tracks age that you're laying? That would be
Okay.
my question to that person. And I hear that a lot, and so often, especially training for a level 1 or started level test, your first entry level test, most people they want to go test too soon. And they think, oh, well, my dog's running a 6-hour-old trail. Let me go get him tested.
Yeah.
I typically will not take a dog to test if it even on a level 1 test. I'm not going to take that dog to test unless it's consistently running level 2s.
Okay.
And by level 2, that's at least 12 hours old. Well, why is that? What happens at that 12-hour mark? The 6 to 12-hour mark is when your human scent and your disturbed earth and broken vegetation scent dissipates. On average, is no more than that 12 hours. So that 6 to 12-hour mark, in between there, is when you start losing, or that scent starts dissipating.
Yep.
So
Well, that makes sense. So that yeah, okay. That makes sense. So your human scent's going to dissipate faster than the hoof scent.
correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kenny, I just realized we're over 2 hours again.
Oh yeah, it doesn't take long.
It doesn't take long, man, and we still have 18 people hanging on. But probably a good point to just tease some of, like we've been doing, what we can expect in next week's series, and then we kind of walk through the events coming up. We'll have a preview show coming up for Alabama here in the midst of our training series, depending on how many parts of the training series we want to do, and I think we'll let the viewership and the questions kind of drive that maybe. Next week when we get into the science stuff, that's where I'm at. I'm all geeked about that. I just love that crap. But
And I want to say, even though we're doing this right here, don't let what we're doing here discredit you from attending an event, because, and I don't know if this has been touched on, but our focus this year is more interactive.
No, we haven't, but it's appropriate time to do it. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we can sit here and we can talk about all this stuff, but when we start, especially like this year, we're doing more interactive things. And I don't know if anyone's on here that attended the Florida event, but we had some really cool stuff that showed.
Kayla outlined it. It was very cool.
Yeah. I mean, so we're showing stuff on scent drift. Is it 100% accurate? No, but it'll. Well, yeah, Perry Lawrence was there.
Yeah,
Perry Lawrence saw it. Is it 100% accurate? No, but it gave a great demonstration on scent drift. We did some demonstrations on the effects of rain, water, standing water, water that dries up. It wasn't planned out this way, but it just so happened that we actually laid out some short little training lines, and we ran multiple dogs on them. The first dog that went on it was a puppy. The next dog that went on it was a 1-year-old dog that actually just passed his finish test, and then Perry went behind them. And what was interesting is you really got to watch how the different dogs work the scent line.
The different age bracket dogs.
Yes, that 1 year dog of Josie's, which is a half Catahoula, half Malinois, nose to the ground, very methodical. I mean, inches from the ground.
Mm.
As it would go over the rows where they planted, the dog's nose would follow it, and very true to the line. Perry's dog worked that same line about 8 yards downwind. The end result was the same, and that was in the field. Well, then with the next one, it went on top of a ridge of a ditch. One dog worked the line true on top of the ridge. The next dog worked downwind inside of that ditch and did a little bit of bracketing where that scent settled down there.
Yeah.
So a lot of very interactive stuff this year as we travel to these seminars. You're going to learn some stuff here, like Matt, you went to the one in Lancaster last year. It was all classroom stuff.
Yep.
And I'm sure you learn from it, and we'll touch on a lot of that stuff on here.
Absolutely, I did.
But when you can get out there in the field and have some hands-on interactive stuff, I'm telling you, that Florida one was probably my favorite because it was 100% interactive.
Yeah. Well, and people relate to that, man. You can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can smell it. That's who we are. I mean, a lot of us work in offices, but we want to be out there. It's just what we are. We're hands-on people generally. So now when we cut off here, we need to hang out and talk for a second, buddy. Because I'm loving everything that you're saying. So.
Yeah. So next week's going to be the science behind it and the scents on a trail. That's going to be our focus next week.
Bring your notepads, guys, because I've heard doses of this, and it's going to be worth taking a few notes. At least, you can save the YouTube link and you can go back and watch this later. Good stuff, man. So,
and let's not forget everyone that we do put this in an audio podcast form.
Yeah.
I will say I've been delaying it actually almost a week. I give people time to watch the live because, especially last week, I did that intentionally. You benefited more from watching that video than you do from the audio, just because there was so much going on. And if you go back and you listen to the podcast, I say in the beginning, hey, this is a recording from a live stream that you can watch on Facebook, YouTube. If you haven't seen that one, and you did listen to the audio, go back and watch it. That stuff with Brian Johnson.
Yeah, that was very, very visual centric for sure. And his next one, when we have him back, and we will have him back, will be the same way. And it's on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. I upload those after I can't simul stream it for some reason. I'm not able to link to it, but I can upload it. So so I put them there. But yeah, definitely share the stuff around and watch it and comment and prepare your questions too. Prepare your questions. So,
yep. So I appreciate everyone for tuning. I love the questions. I don't think we missed any. Look, I think we to make sure, but I think we covered. Yeah, we. Here's one I do want to touch on real quick. Tom Hill, leash, choke chain, and put pressure on the right off. The reason I want to touch on that one, and we can get into it later if we want, but choker chains are another one that is completely misused by the majority of people.
Oh, yeah.
They're not designed to just choke on a dog. It's actually it's actually designed for the audible aspect of that chain run sliding through that ring to get their attention.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not about the choking; it's about that sound. But again, you can do the same thing with just a regular collar and a quick jerk.
Snap.
Yep.
Cool.
So go through, make sure we didn't miss any more. And guys, I do want to say, as far as the breed stuff, we are going to go more in depth at a later date. We're actually going to have some quote unquote breed experts for many different breeds. We're going to try to get them on and talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
cool.
I think this is a good ending point. And Matt.
Yep, I do too, guys. Well, like we said, I'll just recap in case anyone at the beginning. You know, the members' benefits. If you are a member, you are starting to get certain benefits. Patron those folks that are supporting you. If you can, more to come. It's a living adventure right now. There are 3 or 4 active committees. I think 3 active committees that are working hard to make the ABTA better. And I say active, I mean active. So a lot of good stuff coming. Events coming up. Michigan event to be promoted here shortly. Great stuff, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it, man. So more the good, less the bad. I think we're good, Kenny.
Yeah. Thank y'all.
See you guys.